Food is fuel for your body, your mind, and definitely your sport. But let's face it, nutrition is confusing, and the expectations on girls and women to be thin and have a six-pack are exhausting. If you've ever been frustrated with your body, confused about nutrition, obsessed with eating healthy, or guilty when you don't, underate, overate, or overtrained, and overwhelmed with all the pressure, then this podcast is for you. Nutrition can be easy. You can take control of it, but it might start with letting go of control by asking for help and making a change. I'm Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, sports dietitian and owner of Rise Up Nutrition, where I empower female athletes to overcome nutrition concerns and perform at their highest level, to stop being confused by all the mixed or harmful messages, and finally have confidence in your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. Welcome back, fans, to the Female Athlete Nutrition Podcast. I'm really excited to have a guest on with me today. It is Jiana Hook. Jiana is an athletic trainer for the University of Texas, San Antonio. She was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. She graduated with her Bachelors of Science in athletic training from San Diego State, and then received her Master's of Science in Sports Administration from the University of New Mexico, where she completed a Grad Assistantship in athletic training with softball and football teams. She's completed a year-long internship with SMU and the Dallas Mavericks from 2018 to 2019, and currently she is in her second year as an assistant athletic trainer at UTSA with the volleyball and softball teams primarily, but she's assisted with tennis and football as well. And to tie this all together, Jiana and I have worked together at UTSA with many of these college athletes. So I know her personally really well. And Jiana, welcome to the show.
Hello, Linz. I'm happy to be on here with you.
Yeah, me too. I really wanted to get your perspective on some of the main kind of priorities that you see. You spend so much time with collegiate athletes. So we wanted to kind of dive into that and just about a lot of the self-care, rehab, physical care, but I think you see so much more than just physical care as an athletic trainer, right?
Absolutely. Being the athlete as well. So
Yeah. So we'll dive into all of that. But I also just kind of wanted to start with you and hear a bit more about your journey. What was your journey to becoming an athletic trainer? Why did that interest you in studying it and pursuing that as a career?
So interestingly enough, obviously I was an athlete. I feel like I don't think there's anyone on our staff or really athletic trainers in general that probably wasn't an athlete at some point in their life. So there's always kind of that bug. As a high school student, I was a student athletic trainer as well. But I didn't really see myself pursuing that up until one of my friends in undergrad. At the time, I was pre-PT, kind of on the cusp of either being pre-PT or going the pre-med route. And she was like, you should do AT. It'll be good for your resume, getting into PT school too. Like, why not? And so she kind of just kept putting the bug in my ear. And I was like, you know what, fine. Like, I'll do it. It's fine. I'll do it. Like, I have the background. I was an athlete once. Why not? And then lo and behold, it kind of just going through the process of getting into the program and then really going through my first rotations, it became really evident to me that neither of those other routes made sense. I mean, the practicality that I got from my classes, from going in the classroom, in our lab, directly that same day, a lot of the times it seemed that I'd apply exactly what I learned in the classroom and in the lab to my everyday practice. And so it was really hands-on. And I think that's what I really desired and what I was looking for throughout my undergrad. And I wasn't going to get that with pre-PT, and I definitely wasn't going to get that with pre-med. And so that's what really started my journey. And then from there, it just kind of led one to another. It was, okay, completed my undergrad. Okay, I think I want to be a collegiate athletic trainer. Became a grad assistant. Okay, I'm going to keep building off of it. And the passion was solidified essentially. And I really can't see myself doing anything else at this point in my life. And yeah, I'd say that's pretty much the journey so far.
Yeah. Athletic training is very hands-on. There's definitely a crossover, with physical therapy, athletic training, occupational therapy, and a lot of people might, change from one to the other, but what I see athletic trainers in too is kind of that bridge between kind of an athlete who is maybe fully participating in sport, like fully healthy, and then physical therapy is great for like the injured athlete, and the athletic trainer is really like bridging that gap, maybe keeping the athletes healthy, right? Preventing them from getting to that super injured point. So really hands-on.
Exactly. And I think that's what I really liked was that you stay so involved with the game day procedures, essentially, where it's like, how do you keep this person on the court? They like to do those feel good things, like how can you get them to be their optimal athlete? If they're not injured, there's still needs for them, right? So that way they can continue building off of that elite stature that they're in. Because I mean, at the end of the day, every collegiate athlete has an eliteness to them that the everyday person doesn't have. And so that relationship that you can build within that is really cool. Really, really cool. And I honestly, I think it's one of the coolest jobs ever. And people are always like, wow, it's probably so cool to do that. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Like, it's just what I do. But then like you sit back and you think about it and you're like, actually, this is really freaking cool what I do for everyday living. So I'm pretty blessed for sure.
And now obviously you're working in collegiate sports right now, but you have some experience, with the Mavericks, as I read in your bio. Like, is there anything, obviously opportunities come and go, like, would you like to someday do professional sports, or is there something special about collegiate sports for you?
I've pondered that a lot, and I like what's it called? The stage in life that people are in within the collegiate atmosphere. In my opinion, you have such a greater chance to have an influence on these people's lives on the long end, because you're with them for 4 years. You might not be with that professional athlete for very long. Some of them you might be with for 10 years. Some you might be with for 2 weeks and then they get traded. But really, you're with these athletes day in and day out, with their good, with their bad. A lot of them are coming from home for the first time. So you end up being that big brother, big sister to them. And I really like that ability you have no choice but to essentially build camaraderie with them and help them to develop in arguably some of their most developmental years, because we all know the age of 18 to 25 really is
tough. Some tough years there.
Some tough years of having to soul search. And that's really what I look at it as, is that large ability to have an influence on kids. I shouldn't say kids, but at the end of the day, you look back and you're like, you know what? You really are a kid at that age. And I like that ability to have that, So I don't think professional route is for me at this point. I've pondered it, like I said, but I really am happy with the sphere in which I'm in athletic training right now.
Mm-hmm. I totally hear what you're saying, though. Those years, that 18 to 22, 23, it's like really challenging. So many changes going on in your life, but also so many lessons learned and so many opportunities. So I can see how somebody in your position, and honestly, I like that part too. A lot of my clients at Rise of Nutrition are high school or college age, and it's such a important time to be setting like this foundation for where your life is going to go and who you're going to be. And at the same time, though, I do want to touch on those struggles, because it is a hard time in life. Like you said, in college too, this might be the first time, we might think when we're 16 that we're independent, but like when you move away from home, like, oh, that's a big step in your independence now.
Right.
And then if you are a collegiate athlete, it's not only those life skills of, okay, I'm on my own now. And it's not only the school skills of how do I study and keep up with these college level courses, but now from an athletic perspective, it's a higher intensity, it's a higher demand. Sports should absolutely still be fun, but it is another level of like, it's not just for fun, you are doing this for the team and your teammates, and there's a little bit more to it. So from your perspective, and this might be a long-winded answer, but what are some of the main struggles that you see college athletes and student athletes dealing with?
Yeah, I'd say one of the first ones is identity, away from that literally familiar culture. Like, you grow up in a family, you know your identity within your family, you know your identity within your hometown, you know your identity within whatever your club team was. And then you come to a completely different environment regardless, and you can literally make up a whole new identity of who you are as a person. So I think a lot of times that identity is a big struggle, because up until that age of college and even beyond it. And I think that's what a lot of post-collegiate athletes struggle with, is the identity away from being an athlete. And so that this time period is where they really have to learn those lessons and find those identities, because you can have multiple identities. And so a lot of times these athletes are only identifying as one thing, and that was a basketball player, or that male was a football player or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think that's one of absolutely the biggest struggles that they have. And there's so many different microcosms off of that, where you don't know what your identity is. You don't know who you are as a person. Okay, what do I do in my everyday life? Because then my mom provided this for me, but I have to provide this for myself now. My dad provided this for me, but now I have to, whoever it was within your circle back home. And now you have to identify so differently within that.
Yeah. And those multiple layers of identity too, that I'm reflecting on my collegiate career right now. And I know like the transition from high school to college, like in high school, I was like one of the best athletes. I was the best on my gymnastics team, the best on the track team. Like I went from being the best to suddenly in college, I was far from the best, like probably on the bottom half of the team. Right. So there was an identity crisis there. But at the same time, I was also clinging to this identity of, but I am a D1 athlete, And so that was different from some of the classmates that I met in my courses and my classes who were just students. And I was like, no, I'm a student athlete. Like I have practice Saturday morning. I have 2-a-days. I have a whole weekend. Like I can't go to study group. I have a meet all weekend. So that multiple layers of identity. I'm going through this identity crisis of I'm not the best anymore, but I'm also still something,
Yeah. And how do you not put yourself on or knock yourself off of a pedestal? You know what I mean? And where it's just like, I am good enough, or maybe I'm not good enough just because of that one identifier as a D1 athlete or as a collegiate athlete in general. How do you not find worthiness within that identity, So I think that's a huge struggle for them. Another one I think is just the ability to create routines. And I feel like that's probably something that you yourself, when you're trying to teach your clients and stuff how to build routines just on a feeling standpoint, And I think people struggle a lot with that, potentially because of those identity crises though too, in my opinion. And I think with that though too, because of that struggle to conform with the societal standard too, of what a collegiate athlete is or isn't.
And so many things going on, conflicting schedules, social life, team priorities, personal ambitions, school priorities. Probably figuring out how to prioritize is difficult, which makes it difficult to establish routines and habits that are helpful. Like if your priorities aren't in line, how can you establish a successful routine?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, they are young adults. These collegiate athletes are young adults. And so they want to conform to, it's my time to, for lack of better terms, it's my time to party, But is that best for my routine as a collegiate athlete? Maybe not. Maybe not in that time, in that place, but maybe there's a time and a place for it. And how do you find that weird balance so that way you can be a young adult and you can essentially make those mistakes and you can have those fun times, but at the same time, navigate everything else, the identity, the routines. How do you establish being a good teammate? How do you establish, because then you have all of those other factors too. How do you keep your teammates accountable when they do something wrong as a young adult, when you might be making those same mistakes too, like there's so many different ways to struggle within that.
And I will say, just to give you a shout out, because I have worked with you personally, that's something that you're really great at is building these relationships with your athletes. And, you're not just there for their physical health. It's their mental health as well. It's how are they getting along with the other girls or guys on the team, and building like that environment that is supportive. I've also seen you, as much as you care about winning and having top performances, also care about, wait, is this athlete really getting what they need and what's best for their life? And I've seen that in your work, and kind of to tie this together too, with both having that environment that's healthy for the athlete, as well as creating routines. I think that's something you and I have worked on together in incorporating nutrition into things.
Absolutely.
So could you speak on kind of in all of your job experiences, the importance of creating just a healthy nutrition environment on a collegiate sports team?
Yeah, no doubt. I would say one of the biggest ones is it helps break down that platonic stigma of healthy eating, healthy diet, whatever that societal standard is. It helps break that down because, like we've alluded to a little bit more before, all of these people are coming from way different walks of life, and then they intersect, and then it's like, okay, how do I know what's right and what's wrong when all of these people are telling me, oh, well, my mom told me this was right, or my coach in my club program told me that was right, so like I think that's right. So creating that environment in a healthy groupthink way helps provide not only critical thinking skills, where you're like, okay, I'm getting provided this information, but how do I guess, dilute it enough so that way it makes sense on a group level, So that way you can, I guess, decipher what's right for you. Because within that team environment, you don't want to say, well, I do this, so you should do that too, just because Lindsay told me that that's right. But how do you hold people accountable within that team environment of like, well, what has Lindsay told you? And is that what's right for you? And how can I be your accountability partner within that, and not be so judgmental with it,
Yeah, I kind of love how you said dilute it a bit because it's like nutrition is so important for the performance of a collegiate athlete. But do we need to add more pressure to the plate in this setting?
Right.
Like literally to the plate, nutrition pun intended. Do we need to add more pressure and be like, nutrition's so important, like eat your lean proteins, like get your veggies in? Or do we need to like dilute it a bit and just start having these conversations and talk about how nutrition is different for everybody and respect the fact that everybody's coming from different backgrounds? We have athletes on a team where somebody grew up eating whole grains regularly and somebody grew up drinking Coke as their form of hydration, like they never really drank water before, like coming from all different walks of life. And so how can we dilute this so that we're just making nutrition like easy, understandable, digestible, and not making it more stressful or creating this now standard too of like, this is a performance nutrition diet. Like you all have to be doing this. Like, it's so important for it to have a strong presence because it will impact their performance on the court, on the field. But I kind of like how you said dilute it a bit.
Thanks.
I think there's power in that. Yeah, I might steal that for future use.
Please, by all means, go for it. But yeah, and I just think that idea of, I'm just going to use it again, of diluting that information helps them not be so scared, because I think that it's a scary word. Oh, what's your nutrition like? Because coaches will ask that, parents will ask that, doctors will ask that, whatever it might be, and whatever a given situation is. And then it becomes it's a trigger for a lot of people of like, what should I say? What's the right thing? What's the wrong thing? And then it could turn into a just bad things to come out, you know what I mean? Or bad thoughts to be in your head. And so I think that it just helps create that conversation, help it be okay to talk about, and then in the long run, help them be okay with it beyond their college years. Because we know that that's a struggle too with what is your nutrition like when you're a collegiate athlete? How do I properly fuel myself as a collegiate athlete? And then how do I use those same tools and knowledge basis that I gained from that standpoint of my life to the next, and not make it turn into bad habits, toxic thoughts, anything like that.
Yeah, it definitely is a shift from college athlete to, right? There's so many different options. Some college athletes go pro, some might obviously not, but they might still be kind of competitive, and some are just recreational, and some just stop completely. They're like, no, 4 years of my life have been exhausted by this. I'm done. Like, let me focus on something else completely. And that transition, that's so important to bring up, that, what you learn about nutrition in college is still a good foundation, but what you're actually doing, practical application, might change a little bit for that next step.
Exactly. But not using it as it's not the same anymore, so I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to go back to my old ways. But instead, finding those healthy balances like you did before. How do you encourage those same types of processes after?
I totally feel what you said earlier about when you're asked, what's your nutrition like? I mean, it's like brick wall goes up.
No matter who it is.
No matter who it is. Just totally curious. Do you experience that with any like athletic training questions? If you're like, hey, have you done your rehab exercises? Are people like brick wall, I'm scrambling, or are they like comfortable answering that?
I think it depends on who, and it depends on the relationship I have with the person, or just the type of a personality that people are. The rule followers, it kind of doesn't faze them. But I definitely can't say that I've had that brick wall where it's just like, well, I did some of them, or you know what I mean? I wouldn't say it's the same response as, for whatever reason, that nutrition question is just like a brain shift. I don't know what it is. Like, you just get a brain fart. But when it comes to rehab, it's like the people that didn't do it, like, that they didn't do it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's so funny because I experience this all the time. I'm a dietitian. So whenever I ask people, and I have to like calm them down, I'm like, I'm not the food police. I promise you I'm not going to judge you. I ate a milkshake yesterday. Like, I had a brownie 2 days ago. I like have to like start like confessing.
Right. It's like, wait, here's this for you.
Yeah. And I like start doing that just to put them at ease. And I like have to let them know like all foods fit. And then eventually like, that brick wall starts to come down a little bit. But it is interesting. I think that's just, one of the issues we have in today's society with nutrition is that if you are to even ask a question about nutrition, people feel like personally attacked or like you're going to make a judgment. So for anybody listening who feels that, if you could just say, Jiana, like, why would you ask somebody that question? It's obviously not to judge them. So why are you asking? Like, what is the benefit that you get out of asking one of your athletes, hey, how's your nutrition?
Shoot. I mean, I can go down a big old rabbit hole about why I might ask that question. Acutely, I might ask it for someone goes a little vasovagal, or someone goes, for those that don't know what that means, they might pass out.
Yeah. So they're not looking well during practice or during a game.
Yeah, they're not looking so well. They look really flushed in the face. Something's going on. They're doing a conditioning exercise and they get dizzy, woozy, whatever it might be. I might ask them in that sense. What was your nutrition like? What did you eat in the last 24 hours? What did you eat this morning? What was your hydration like?
You are literally doing like a medical evaluation. I need to know what your nutrition is like because I need to take care of you.
Yes, right now, right here, I need to know what I might need to give you because you might not have X, Y, and Z in your system to provide those nutrients for you to be doing the present activity at hand. Another reason I might ask it would be for chronic injury. A lot of times our chronic injury comes from a lack thereof nutrition or too much of a certain type of a nutrition. So that question can easily come up then as well. And at that point, it'll be a little bit more of a larger breakdown of, okay, I have this for breakfast, I have this for lunch, I have this for dinner, so on and so forth. That way I can get a better understanding of why they're having certain types of symptoms, whether it be a general medical type issues that they're having or specific injury. When it comes to bony health and someone continues to have stress fractures or stress reactions in their bones, especially in our female athletes, that's something that we have to bear in mind very, very, very carefully and that's because of just hormones within the female body. We have to understand how weight loss or lack thereof, just any sort of weight fluctuation, I could say, and increased load within activity, runners, just high impact type athletes, jumpers, all that kinds of stuff, they might have an increase in those types of bony injuries because of a lack thereof nutrition. So another way that I might ask those questions.
Yeah. I just want to highlight one more time, you're caring for their injuries. For you to care for their injuries, prevent injuries, treat them, you're asking how their nutrition is.
Right. Yes. And I'd say just another one would just be general mental health. I mean, I really do pride myself on, I mean, you kind of spoken on it, Lindsay, and saying my, so I appreciate that, that mind, body, and soul is everything for me. And so I really won't treat one without the other, because you really can't have one be elite without the other two, or two without the one, whatever it might be. And so I might just ask them, because I noticed that something is off with them. So I might just say, your energy level is really low lately. Like, you haven't been able to really sustain a practice. You get really good at the beginning and then you deteriorate the rest of practice. What's going on? What's it been like? And it might not be that initial conversation, but it might be something that I can at least keep picking at, peel the onion away to figure out what might be the cause for that lack in energy, or the lack of ability to focus, or fatigue, or something of that nature. And yeah, so there's definitely many ways that I can ask or bring up nutrition and where I focus on it, but those are probably some of the three main ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, because people do get so sensitive when they're being asked that question, we just want you to know, for you listeners, we just want you to know that your athletic trainer is asking you about your nutrition, or your dietitian is asking you about your nutrition, not to judge you, but because we're trying to care for you as a whole person, just like Jiana said, mind, body, and soul as a whole person. I also love that you brought up the mental health piece, because I think now more than ever with COVID and just how the whole environment of sports, collegiate athletics right now, totally different than ever in the past. And mental health is suffering. And, you know, one thing that happens to a lot of people with their mental health and nutrition, it goes one of two ways. I'm eating because I'm stressed and I don't know how to handle my emotions, or I'm not eating because I'm stressed and I don't know how to handle my emotions. And both can have negative consequences. So again, Gianna's like, I might ask you how you're eating if I see that your mental health is declining, because that's a big concern, you know. And I don't know if there's anything else that you can speak on for nutrition or health or mental health that you've been witnessing in collegiate athletes this year, or any advice that you might have, because quite frankly, we don't quite know if this is ending anytime soon. So for current college athletes, or maybe incoming for next year, do you have any advice on how these athletes can take care of themselves throughout this time?
I mean, I feel like that people have been trying to do this and have encouraged this from the beginning, but I really believe in routines. And I think routines kind of help, I guess, keep our brains at a homeostatic level, right? And I treat my athletes that way with their injury. We want to have as much homeostasis within their lives and within their bodies as possible, because then if you have any sort of shift negatively, positively, too much, too little, whatever it might be, you can get a lot of other side effects. So my biggest encouragement would just be to find those routines. And if you haven't found them, or you have found them and you need a shift in one, there's nothing wrong with changing a routine either. You know, I trained in the morning and then I have a yoga session in the afternoon, whatever it might be. Okay, well, that's getting really boring to me. Switch it up. Okay, whatever hours it is within your day, find those changes that you can, so you don't get so bored with what you're doing. And I would say just find different ways to have human contact with people, because you don't realize how far human contact can help that everything else within your life be okay. You know, even if you're a social person, you still need to have social contact. At the end of the day, we're human beings. So whether it's a FaceTime call that you have every Tuesday with so-and-so, have that every Tuesday, you know?
So again, that routine, once again, even with social, yeah, those routines with your workouts, when you eat, your fueling schedule, when you're going to get your homework done, when you're going to make calls to stay social, stay connected, creating that routine. I think that's great advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard from a coach before, so this phrase is going through my head, that structure gives you freedom. Like, we all want freedom. We just want to be like, don't tell me what to do. I want to do what I want. And especially as a college athlete who normally you are so structured, so regimented, that we can kind of want to like rebel against that sometimes and just be like, nah, I'm going to do my thing, you know? Yeah. But I think that during this time, especially, I think that those routines and having that structure is what's going to give you more freedom. And when I say freedom, I mean freedom of the mind. Because if you don't have those routines, you're going to feel trapped by all of your limitations, trapped by the negative thoughts in your head, trapped by this world we're living in today. So I do think that creating structure will actually give you more freedom of your mind and of life.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that, because you when you can't find routines, your mind is constantly trying to figure out what you have to do next. Rather, when you have that structure, it's like, well, I know what I got to do next because it's written down right here. And then you're able to kind of take whatever it might be that you didn't expect to come at you. You can say, okay, well, I can fit it right here in my schedule, hypothetically, you know. Obviously, it doesn't always work out like that, but you can have at least a little bit more, I guess, peace that something happens a little differently than you were expecting. And you can say, I can do it. I can handle it. Let me take care of it now.
Absolutely. This is kind of backtracking a bit, but I just had this memory pop into my mind of like another reason, or just an example of Jiana asking her athletes about their nutrition and why it was a positive thing. Is like, I remember this story one time about one of our athletes that kept complaining of headaches, you know, and kept coming to you for medication, headaches and migraines. Then finally it was like, how's your nutrition? Are you drinking? Are you drinking enough water? And it was like, no. You know, like that was the answer. She didn't need these like CAT scans for migraines and like everything. Like, she just needed hydration.
Constant.
Yeah. But such a simple thing, I think, such a simple thing. And yet when college athletes are dealing with so much on their plates and so much stress and so many things as a priority, like that's why you're there to like guide them in their self-care. Hey, you need to be drinking more water.
Right. Dumb things down. And I think that can go for a lot of things just in life or in how we handle things of like, okay, sometimes we don't want to answer those dumb questions or think of like doing those simple things that we feel like we already do. But like sometimes we need to like check ourselves and be like, am I doing those little things? Did I double check that? Because then you make it into a bigger thing where it's like, we didn't actually have to go see you, Linz, for this athlete. And we just figured out, hey, their hydration's not where it needs to be, you know? So we almost have to have those guided checks a lot more. And there's nothing wrong with it. It just helps us resolve issues that don't have to be as big as we might think they are.
Yeah, we don't have to escalate them. Yeah. Yeah, so good. Well, Jiana, I know I could talk to you about so many different topics.
Heck yeah, we could just keep going.
But yeah, maybe we'll do another episode in the future. But I do want to kind of finish this episode with some rapid fire questions, okay?
Oof, okay. Hopefully I got them.
So what is your favorite food that you couldn't live without? You could eat every single day and never get sick of it?
Ice cream.
Me too. Ice cream, perfect. What is your favorite spectator sport? Your favorite sport to watch?
Either basketball or football.
What about to play yourself? What's your favorite sport to engage in?
Golf.
Oh, interesting.
Completely opposite spectrums, I know. Yep.
What's funny is I would say I'm the opposite. Terrible at playing golf. I really respect watching golf live. I'm not really much of a TV golf watcher, but that's one of my favorite spectator sports. I grew through NCAA, through collegiate golf. I love watching collegiate golf live if I can. Yeah.
That's a funny little tidbit about you, Linz.
Yeah, it is. It's peaceful being out there on the court on the course with them. It's so peaceful.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, it's like this balance of like peaceful, but then like competitive. It's this weird.
Yes. Or like you have the edginess, you feel the edginess from people around you, and you're like, but I can't cheer. I can't scream. I can't do anything.
Exactly. Yes. So next time you play around, I'll watch you since you like to play it and I like to watch golf.
Perfect. You could join me on the cart and you can shoot to whatever it's going.
Yeah. Awesome. Next question. Is there a female athlete that inspires you or that is your role model?
Honestly, Serena Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Love her. Her and Abby Wambach, probably.
Yeah. Great. Any particular reason?
They continuously break down like the glass ceiling for females. Continuously, like no matter what. Like they break their own records essentially. You know what I mean? And for me, like I want to be that female within my respective field. I want to be that female that, you know, breaks down those barriers, breaks down expectations of what people say that we can and cannot do. And they show me that I can. So.
Amazing. And so last question, you've given us so many golden nuggets of information and things to really get us thinking, especially for those college athletes or soon to be college athletes that might be listening. What's one thing or one action step that listeners can take today that will have an impact on their life based on what we talked about? What's one thing that they can take action on right away?
I'd say just like sit in your own calmness, find that calmness and move forward. I mean, I think there's so much chaos going on right now that the ability to find a calm within your life, within your mind, whatever it might be, will help you be able to prioritize moving forward what is important, and how to create those routines and really just to become a better self. You know, I think we don't take advantage of those quiet times enough, but quiet time is really good to reflect and figure out what needs to happen next. It doesn't always have to be go, go, go.
Yeah, I love that. And from Jiana Hook, the mind, body, soul athletic trainer herself, looking at you as an athlete holistically, maybe one of the best things you can do to take care of yourself today is to find some quiet time and think about how can I move forward. Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining and being on the show.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, no doubt. Hopefully we can meet again.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode and thanks for listening. But before I let you go, I have free resources that you can have access to right away, right now, so that you can start fueling your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. First, I have your Red S recovery race. If you've ever wondered if you might be struggling with Red S, curious to learn more, or know you have Red S and are looking to recover fast, then you can head to www.riseupnutritionrun.com/RedS and download the Red S recovery race. See how you place and figure out the next steps to recovery. Plus, while there, I have a few other great resources for you, including 3 nutrition secrets that every elite athlete swears by, and access to a private Facebook community, Female Athlete Nutrition. So again, to gain access to all of this, head to riseupnutritionrun.com/RedS. That's /REDS. And you can gain access and get the help you need fast. Too many girls and women and female athletes struggle with nutrition, but you don't have to any longer. Become fierce, fit, and fueled. Links in the show notes, and I'll see you next time.